So today we'll finish this session on fractionation. Okay, time dose parameters. Uh, Time dose parameters determining normal tissue tolerance are total dose. Or right now, we'll first focus on the normal tissue and the side associated side effects. So time dose parameters determining normal tissue tolerance are total dose, overall duration of treatment, size of dose per fraction, and frequency of dose fractionation. Size of dose per fraction and fractionation frequency determine the rate of dose accumulation. Intensity of acute reaction depends upon rate of cell kill and cell survival through proliferation of surviving stem cells, which depends on dose accumulation. At the peak of acute reaction, further irradiation will not increase the intensity of acute reaction, but will increase the time to heal. Uh, Late reaction occurs in tissues with slow cellular turnover like mature connective tissue and parenchymal cells of organs, example spinal cord. Note depletion of cells in late reacting tissues even if full course of RT is complete. Hence, overall treatment time as well as dose accumulation has little role in severity of late reaction. Instead, severity of late reaction is dominated by size of dose per fraction and interfraction interval. Time interval is necessary for complete repair of sublethal damage. Recommended time interval is at least 6 hours. As overall treatment increases, the probability of tumor control decreases. Iso-effective dose for tumor control increases. So now, any issues in the time dose parameters, the importance of overall treatment time and everything? Okay. So coming to fractionation now. A little bit of history. In 1930s, experiments were done by Regard and colleagues in France. Rams could not be sterilized with a single dose of X-rays without extensive skin damage. If the radiation was delivered in daily fraction over a period of time, sterilization was seen possible without skin damage. Testis was regarded as a model of growing tumor and skin as dose-limiting normal tissue. This led to the Coutard study that culminated in the fractionated EBRT techniques of today. Why fractionation? The advantages of dose fractionation include fractionation exploits the difference in a recovery rate between normal, acute, and reacting tissues and tumors. Radiation-induced redistribution of cells within the cell cycle tends to sensitize the rapidly proliferating cells as they move into more sensitive phase. The acute normal tissue toxicity of a single radiation dose can be decreased with fractionation, thus patient's tolerance to treatment improves. Reduction in the number of hypoxic cells through cell killing and reoxygenation. The effect of hypoxia is lesser at lesser dose per fraction. So the different fractionations, standard or conventional fractionation, altered or modified fractionation, includes hyperfractionation, accelerated fractionation, continuous hyperfractionated accelerated radiation therapy, hyperfractionation, split course radiotherapy, concomitant boost. So standard fractionation 1.8 to 2 gray per fraction, 9 to 10 gray to total dose per week, single fraction per day, 5 days a week. Total dose depending upon the tumor sensitivity. It should be noted that a true standard or conventional fractionation does not exist. No schedule has been universally recognized as a standard of reference to be compared with. Standard fractionation has developed more on an empirical basis than on a strong radiobiological rationale. has stood the test of time and is the optimum radiotherapy treatment practice for most of the settings. Always remember, when you are in doubt, whenever there is any complicated case and you don't know, standard fractionation is the best and the safest way to practice it. Okay, hyperfractionation. Pure hyperfractionation is defined as same total dose as in conventional regimen, same overall treatment time, but delivering it in twice as many fractions by the expedient of treating twice per day. This would not be satisfactory because the total dose would not be need to be increased if the dose per fraction is decreased. In practice, then impure hyperfractionation involves an increase in total dose, somewhat longer overall treatment time, and treating twice per day. The intent is to reduce late effects but achieve same or better tumor control or same or slightly increased early effects. To not to prolong overall treatment time, these small doses per fraction would necessitate 3 to 4 fractions per day. Hyperfractionation rationale. I am just reading now and I will be discussing and explaining all this. Please ping or stop me if there is any doubt. I hope no doubts till now. No. Higher biologically effective dose to the tumor. When the alpha by beta ratio for tumor cells is greater than that of the dose limiting late responding normal tissue. Hyperfractionation also induces radiosensitization through cell cycle redistribution. The opportunity for tumor cells to be sensitized by redistribution into more radiosensitive phases of the cell cycle increases with the number of dose fractions. Lesser dependence on resistance caused by low oxygen tension with smaller radiation doses. So, example, a large controlled clinical trial of hyperfractionation was conducted by URTC in the treatment of head and neck cancers. A hyperfractionated schedule of 80.5 gray in 70 fractions at 1.15 gray per fraction over a period of 7 weeks. This was compared with conventional regimen of 70 gray in 35 fractions over 7 weeks. Local tumor control at 5 years increased from 40 to 59%. P-value was significant. Trend towards improved survival. There was no increase reported in late complications, no increase in acute complications. It was concluded that hyperfractionation confers an unequivocal advantage in the treatment of head and neck cancers. So, if you see the local control, the p-value is p.045, and even disease-free survival shows an trend towards improved survival in all these, in overall survival, DFS, and local control. Guys know how to read these survival charts? What is this curve called as? What is this curve? Can anyone explain this curve? Yes. Can anyone unmute and explain what is this curve? As an oncologist, you should know how to read survival curves. Hmm? Anyone? At least give it a try. Hmm. What happened? Am I not audible? Hello. Hello.
Sir, yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hmm. Yeah, I want someone to attempt at least try to explain the survival curve. How do you explain? I'm sure in these many lectures you must have come across these kind of curves everywhere. Okay. I will only go. See, it's as someone here said, it's a Kaplan-Meier curve. Kaplan-Meier survival curves are an important part of cancer treatment analysis because at the end of the day, it is all about survival. If any treatment regimen is said to be better than the other, it should first improve the survival to talk about other things. So the method used is called the survival. Most common is a Kaplan-Meier survival curve. It's a very simple method of survival curve. How it does is, if you see here, it's a plot. If you see on x-axis, it is time. On y-axis, it is event percentage or event probability. So, suppose take it year wise, 1, so 2. So we start with 100 patients, and the event, suppose we are looking for is say death in 100 patients. So we, at time when we start, it is 100, but at year 1, 2 patients have died. So we start at 100, year 1, not 10 patients have died, so it is 90. So the plot will be here. At year 2, so 90 have died, survived, 10 have died. So at year 1, how many number at risk? 90. Then at year 2, out of 90, another 2 have died. So at year 2, the number at risk will be 88, and we will be somewhere here. So like this, the curve is generated. So every year when the event is happening, there is a drop in the thing. Okay, so this is a survival curve, and we always mention the number at risk. It will be total number minus the number amongst whom the event has happened minus censoring. The censoring is a term used for patients who have lost to follow up or not a part of study anymore. So it is very important because if it is higher, it will influence the survival curve. Now, if you have to compare in two arms, like here in the standard arm and the hyperfractionated arm. So if you have to compare that, then one second. So if you have to compare, suppose this is the hyperfractionated arm and this is the conventional arm. You will upper one is hyperfractionated and lower one is conventional arm. As per this, which curve is better or having an higher survival? H or C? By the looks of it, I'm not talking about any statistics. Why? Rather than saying higher percentage of survival, you have to say lower event is happening in the curve. That is the better way of saying this. And yes, and the statistical test used to, there are two statistical tests. One is Wilcoxon log rank test, and the other is Cox proportional hazards test. These are the two statistical tests for doing this analysis. Okay, I won't go into details of this, with that maybe there for another day. So there most likely this must be a Wilcoxon log rank test. Okay, so here as you can see, hyperfractionation is better than standard fractionation in all. So this is same showing in standard fractionation 46% had local control. So can anyone tell me the definitions of what is local control and what is disease free, local regional control and disease free survival? What do you mean by that? What is local regional control and what is disease free survival? What do you mean by local regional control? And disease free survival? Yes. See, there these two are very important terms. Loco-regional control means number of patients at a defined endpoint. It's like here it is 2 years. So at the end of 2 years, number of patients not having recurrence locally or to name it at the site of primary and regionally, usually in the draining nodes. Okay, and DFS at defined endpoint at the end of 2 years, number of patients that are alive and disease free. Simple. So if a patient of base of tongue at the end of 2 years has a lung met, his local control, he will be considered, his local control is there, but won't be considered in disease-free survival. This is important because when you're doing the statistics, the method of doing the statistics is to the system. Those who are using SPSS will know this, and who have estimated survival curve. So what you do for doing this, uh, you mention state. So use these things, either date of diagnosis or treatment, date of last follow-up. From these two, you calculate follow-up time. Then another is status at last follow-up, which usually can be alive, oblique, alive, with disease, dead. And this, you can also add another category, dead due to disease. So when you're doing this KM plot, okay, you compare this follow-up time with event of interest. If I want to just see overall survival, so I will just see dead. Okay, I will convert all dead and dead due to disease in one category. So for me, I will define dead. So the KM plot will follow up and will see at every time point how many are dying, and will generate a plot for me. Okay, so that's a Kaplan-Meier curve, how you develop. Now, if I want to use stratify which is better, so then there is another category here where we assign variables. That variable may be conventional versus hyperfractionation or any other. Okay. Now, if I want to find the local control, so at here I will add another variable. Hmm, uh, Progression at last follow-up. Yes, no. If yes, then loco-regional or systemic or both. So if I want to see, so my event of interest now becomes answer to progression at last follow-up. If yes, then the one saying LR or both. So if that event has happened, so my local control, it will show, give me my local control. Understood? This is just in brief how to get a survival curve or to understand the concept of local control and disease-free survival. Understood? Shall I move ahead? Hmm. Okay. So as you can see, the local control in the standard fractionation is 10, almost 10% higher. Disease-free survival is also higher. Overall survival is also higher. But statistically significant results are there for only local regional control. Hyperfractionation. The review concluded that experimental and clinical evidence for a consistent therapeutic gain from hyperfractionated radiotherapy is still lacking. The present analysis indicates that the dose per fraction generally used in standard radiotherapy is already a good choice. Nevertheless, disease control and survival that are achievable with standard radiotherapy are not satisfactory and additional study is warranted. Coming to accelerated treatment. Same total dose delivered in half the overall treatment time by giving two or more fractions per day. In practice, it is never possible to achieve this as acute effects become limiting. Thus, it is necessary to either interpose a rest period in the middle of the treatment or reduce the dose slightly with acute effects as the limiting factor. The intent is to reduce repopulation in rapidly proliferating tumors. There should be a little or no change in the late effects because the number of fractions and dose per fractions are unaltered. The rational reduction in overall treatment time decreases the opportunity for tumor cells to regenerate during treatment. Results in therapeutic gain because overall treatment time has little influence on the probability of late normal tissue injury. When the fraction size is not increased and the interval between those fractions is adequate for the cellular repair of sublethal injury. Acute reactions expected to increase, but if remain in tolerable limit, a therapeutic gain can be expected. Hybrid accelerated fractionation also reduces the overall treatment time, but with changes in other variables such as fraction size, total dose, and time distribution. Canders found 60 different schedules of accelerated treatment in literature, with great diversity of total doses, overall treatment time, number and size of fraction, and frequency of fractions. When the overall duration of treatment is greatly reduced, acute reactions become intolerable and the total dose or fraction size has to be decreased. A therapeutic gain can be achieved only if the dose equivalent or regeneration of tumor cells exceeds the actual reduction in dose required to keep acute reactions at a tolerable level. So this is one study, British Columbia Cancer Agency, Canada. 66 in 33 over 6.5 weeks compared with 66 in 33 over 3.5 weeks at 2 gram per fraction, twice daily over 5 days a week. Local control, no difference. But grade 4 toxicity was higher. Another study, same thing, no survival advantage, increased toxicity in the accelerated arm. The late toxicity is manifested after completion therapy with severe acute toxicities. Large prospective randomized controlled trial was carried out by URTC by head neck cancers, except oropharynx. Accelerated treatment was considered 72 gray in 45 fractions, 3 fractions of 1.6 gray per day, with overall treatment time of 5 weeks, with the rest of 2 weeks in the middle, was compared with the conventional arm. 15% increase in local regional control, no advantage. Acute effects were increased significantly. Unexpected increase in late effects, including lethal complications. In the early years of EORTC, only 4 hours of interfraction interval was used, leading to incomplete repairs between fractions, culminating in serious late complications. The late effects observed may also be due to consequence of severe acute effects. Dhahanka 6 and 7 compares 6 days per week versus conventional 5 days with same total dose. Result, local control increased, disease-free survival increased, overall survival no difference. Preservation of voice increased, acute toxicities increased, mucositis persisted longer but healed within 3 months. Late toxicities no difference, highly recommended. So this is the study Dhahanka 6 and 7. So for using 6 days per week. Now, can anyone tell me why this is not routinely practiced? In all this, in head neck, all these studies, what factor is not being taken into account? No. not logistics. What is the standard treatment for head neck cancer? Yes, chemotherapy. Chemotherapy acts as a radiosensitizing agent. Okay. So in all these studies, the standard that is being compared with others, these kind of local control, these rates are already achieved with addition of chemotherapy. So is there any additional advantage of making it 6 days per week? That is the question. Because if you increase it, you are increasing the toxicities as well. So there are studies right now going on. I think one is going on in TMH only. That was 6 days per week with and without chemotherapy. ARCON, accelerated hyperfractionated radiation therapy. Yeah. Accelerated hyperfractionated radiation therapy while breathing carbogen and with the addition of nicotinamide. Strategy was to accelerate treatment to avoid tumor proliferation, hyperfractionate to minimize late effects, and add carbogen breathing to overcome chronic hypoxia and nicotinamide to overcome acute hypoxia. Early results of trial of ARCON in Netherlands involving advanced laryngeal cancer showed spectacular results. Split course accelerated fractionation. This was addressed by the EORTC and RTOG group in patients with locally advanced head neck cancers. URTC regimen consists of 28.8 gray given in 3 fractions of 1.6 gray per day over 7 days, followed by 2-week break, then 43.2 gray in 27 fractions over 11 days to a cumulative dose of 72 gray over 45 fractions over 5 weeks. Not overall survival. Toxicities, acute toxicities increased, significant increase in late toxicities. Consequently, the regimen was abandoned. RTOG was 67.2 gray in 6 weeks with 2 fractions of 1.6 per day with a 2-day treatment break in between. This 1 week acceleration with a 3.8 gray, 5% dose reduction increased the acute mucositis without improving the loco-regional control. So, in short, all the hyperfractionated trials in which the attempt was to improve, reduce the overall treatment time, has increased local control बढ़ाए ना बढ़ाए side effects जरूर बढ़ाया है. This is the learning lesson for all of us, that whenever we have any issue or anything, we should always go with the safe and standard thing rather than trying something new. Okay, when you're not sure, because if you cannot give benefit, at least don't give side effects. Remember this principle. Okay, do no harm. That is our motto, right? Hippocratic oath. Do no harm. Harm is only justified if you're giving benefit. If you're not giving benefit, don't give any harm. So remember that. That's why this is my favorite topic and I always take it first. I urge you all to make an Excel sheet as an assignment. I'm giving the small homework. So I want you all to do this. Okay. I'm writing conventional fractionation, hyperfractionation, accelerated hyperfractionation and hypofractionation. So I want you all to write definition, then impact on total dose, overall treatment time, acute effects, oh wait, dose per fraction, acute effects, and late effects. Like for conventional, you have to write definition once daily, 5 days in a week, total dose. Leave it because it's against you're comparing oral dose per fraction 1.8 to 2 gray. So now in hyperfractionation, dose per fraction is higher or lesser than this. You have to mention. So in hyperfraction, suppose twice or multiple times daily. Total dose same or higher. Overall treatment time same or slightly increased. Dose per fraction reduced. Acute effects uh, they remain same or increased. Late effects reduced in principle. Understood? Like this, I want for all. Okay? If you do this, you will more or less you have under if you're able to do this for all without referring to any book, you have understood the concept of fractionation. Reducing the total number of fraction with same total duration and compromised total acute responding tissues or tumors, not much effect. Marginal increase in acute toxicities, marginal increase in tumor control. Late responding tissues, greatly increased toxicities, decreased therapeutic advantage. Okay, so here we are done with this fractionations. Any doubts? Anything? Next, we will start with DNA damage and then we'll move on to cell survival curves. And if you guys are interested, then I might take a couple of classes on statistics. Any doubts in this? Any concept, any fractionation schedule you did not understand? Uh, Fractionation decision based on tumor reaction time or outcome. See, fractionation decision is based on both. It is based on the patient's general condition, patient's fractionation decision is based on following factors. One and most important, tumor biology. Second, adjoining normal tissue tolerance. Third, patient's general condition. So these are the three factors on which it is rated. Outcome is not important, not that important, because any fractionation you choose should have an equal outcome. A fractionation with poorer outcome is definitely not recommended. Yes, we compare either with BED or EQD2. Yes, one should always know BED or EQD2. So this is another exercise that I would like you all to do. I'll just mention here sheet 2. Outcome as in tumor control. See, if the tumor control is poor, why would like to choose that fractionation? Fractionation associated with poorer outcome. See, when you talk about outcome, it talks about local control and it talks about overall survival. Okay, so so cancer outcome is in terms of either in local control, disease-free survival, progression-free survival, and overall survival. Best is if you get an overall survival. If you are not having any evidence for overall survival, then you look out for these surrogate markers. So fractionation associated with poorer outcome is definitely not recommended. And yeah, so this dose fractionation, this exercise was given to me by my senior, and I am always thankful to her for this because it is helping me in my practice every day. Okay, so the most common is 1630 that we use, then we use 50 in 25, then any other 30 in 10 for palliative. Then we use 40 gray in 16, then we use 70 gray in 35. Any other regimen? 40 gray in 15, then we use 20 in 5. Any other regimen that you can think of? Yeah, for cervix 46 gray in 23, 12.6 and 7. Okay. Yes. Any other? Hodgkin's follicular 19.8, gray in 11, multiple myeloma 33, gray in 11. Then I'm not talking about single fractions. So, okay, now I want you all to calculate EQD2. Okay, calculate BD for alpha by beta 10, BD for alpha by beta 3. Okay, okay. EQD2 alpha by beta 10 and EQD2 alpha by beta 3. And I have made one mistake in this on purpose. I would like to, in our next session, I would like to see how many are able to pick that up. Okay. And people can take a screenshot of this and yeah. Okay, guys. So next session we'll start with DNA damage. Any other doubts? Uh, I don't know. I am not recording. Who is recording? I think Navnath was doing. Am I supposed to record this? Please, regarding that, please. Okay. So Darshana, can you just answer that guy's query? Okay, chalo. Bye, guys. See you on next Tuesday. Please do this exercise.